versus tonight, Einar Tangen, political and economic affairs expert, senior fellow at the Tahi Institute and chairman of Asia Narratives from Beijing. My first question is to Brahma Chelani, well-known geostrategic expert from New Delhi. What are the strategic implications for India? How dangerous can it get? Brahma.
China has a record of studying transnational river projects in secrecy. And only when its work can no longer be hidden from commercially available satellite reconnaissance, it finally admits that the project is underway. Now, this particular project was actually unveiled some years ago, and in March 2021, China's rubber-stamp parliament, known as the National People's Congress, gave its formal approval to this project. And then in May 2021, China unveiled its highway to this remote region. This region where the dam is coming up is very close to the India border. This is where the great bend of the Brahmaputra River is. This highway made this remote region where the dam will come up accessible. And then the following month, in June 2021, China opened its railway to Gyantri. Gyantri, which is the town, military base town, near the dam site. In fact, in July 2021, that is a month after the railway was inaugurated, Xi Jinping began his tour of Tibet from Gyantri. He spent one night in Gyantri. So all this indicates that work on the project properly began in 2021, and the latest state media reports indicate that the work is now in progress, because now they are reporting, they are talking about it. So this is not a new project, but the strategic implications are quite significant, and more so, the environmental implications of this project are going to be significant for the downstream communities, not only in Northeast India, but also for the downstream communities in Bangladesh, because ultimately Bangladesh will bear the brunt of the environmental havoc wreaked by this project.
Well, in that sense, Einar, I mean, if what Dr. Chelani is saying is true, this project is illegal. China is breaking international laws and is attempting to hide its plans. And that has grave implications, not just for bilateral relations, but for the planet. Why are you doing this in secrecy? Can you unmute yourself, Einar?
Okay. I am not involved in the project myself. Dr. Chelani is entitled to his view. He takes a very dim view of China. I don't necessarily agree with his characterizations, and it's mostly speculation. As he pointed out, this project has been in the plans for quite some time. China has a long record of trying to increase economic development. This will provide an incredible amount, 3 times the level of electricity that the world's previous largest dam provided. And this is key to developing Tibet. So from their perspective, it's water on their lands, and they want to do it. Now, here's the problem. I do agree that these nations have to come together. China has 15 rivers that flow across into India and other neighboring countries. And there has to be some sort of diplomatic approach to them. These are both countries that are water stressed. Water is something you cannot do without. This is a humanitarian issue. So I do agree that this has to be handled diplomatically.
So why was this not discussed before the project was initiated? It's logical. What's the point?
It's been discussed for many years, as you pointed out. You go back to 2021 and you start saying.
No, but Einar, there has been
one or the other.
There has been lack of transparency from China, and Brahma can tell you more. I'll explain to you why. Because China stopped most amazingly, sharing water data with India, saying that the interruption was because of technical upgrades at water stations in 2017. This is during the Doklam standoff, right? This raises concerns for India because we cannot be prepared for any natural calamity if the data related to the river is not shared by you. So what you're doing, you know it, is patently illegal.
No, it's not illegal.
It's totally illegal.
You characterize this as there are a lot of things that happened because of the Doklam standoff, and they happened on both sides. Try again. I have many friends who tried to go to India from China, and their passports were held up for 3 months, even though they were denied. I mean, there was a tit for tat going on. I don't know if the water was part of that, but obviously communications between both sides broke down severely. Now, the issue is you can break down communications. China can go ahead with its projects, or you can try to have a diplomatic solution that not only addresses this water issue, which is critical to both sides, but also the border issue. Until those things are finalized,
you should not link the two. I'm quite surprised, actually, Brahma, that there seems to be an obvious attempt to link the two. How is the border issue linked to the water issue?
Two different issues.
No, but then why are you even mentioning the border issue in the context of this discussion?
Well, I think, we should go back to...
pointing out that
Brahma is coming in, Brahma.
So the Tibetan Plateau is the starting point of Asia's major river systems. And ever since China annexed Tibet, removing the historical buffer between the Indian and Chinese civilizations, China became the dominant hydro-hegemon of Asia. Today, it's a source of rivers for more than a dozen countries located downstream. But what stands out is that China does not have not a single water sharing arrangement or cooperation treaty with any downriver country. India has water sharing treaties with both the countries located downstream to it. The Indus water sharing treaty with Pakistan and the Ganges water sharing treaty with Bangladesh. But China does not have a single water sharing arrangement or cooperation treaty with any downriver country. To make matters worse, it has a record of actually weaponizing water. And we have seen how it has sought to weaponize water even against India. There is a bilateral agreement with India on transferring upstream hydrological data to India. Now, this hydrological data that is shared with India is not given for free. It is sold to India. Unlike India's hydrological data to Pakistan and Bangladesh, which is given for free. And yet, whenever China wants, it suspends the transfer of hydrological data to India. It suspended that in 2017, when India boycotted the initial Belt and Road Summit in Beijing. Then, after this standoff began between the two militaries in 2020 in response to China's encroachments in eastern Ladakh, it suspended the transfer of hydrological data to India. And then last month, it agreed to resume. In fact, actually this month, at the beginning of this month, it agreed to resume sharing of hydrological data with India. In other words, it weaponizes water at its own sweet will. And I think this particular background that we have is very troubling because
it has been analyzed by several people of late. You may have, you're one of the greatest China experts, Brahma, but it has been analyzed by several people who say that as the Chinese economy goes down, I'm not saying it's sinking, but it's certainly dwindling, China will follow the trajectory of several other powers who become unusually aggressive, militarily, strategically, and instead of looking within on the economic issues it is having, they may want to externalize the problem, Brahma. So they're looking for friction. They'll be looking for friction in coming days.
The fact that the latest reports on the super dam project have come soon after the two countries' special representatives met in Beijing and agreed on some confidence-building measures, indicates that a thaw in Sino-Indian relations is still not near.
Yep.
It's clear that this dam project, the way it's being pursued, in a very opaque manner, of course, it fits with the larger pattern. It's not just with India.
It's blackmail, you say? It's blackmail?
Well, it's the secrecy culture that is deeply ingrained in the Chinese Communist Party. They built 11 giant dams in the Mekong. Each dam was built in complete secrecy. As a result of these 11 giant dams, they're wreaking environmental havoc in downstream Mekong Basin. And the countries in downstream Mekong Basin are not adversaries of China, they're friends of China.
Einar, if you had been a downstream country with an increased risk of flash floods, absence of information, absolute secrecy, or if a project from India and if you were downstream could trigger flash floods in a part of your country, you would consider it a very unfriendly move. I just want to place it on record that you're choosing to be unfriendly. I mean, China is choosing to be extremely unfriendly towards India.
You love to put words in my mouth. You can either speak for me or allow me to speak. Which is it?
No, you can speak for yourself. But I just said that I feel China is being very unfriendly.
You're characterizing everything. First off, this whole idea about it's all being done in secrecy, this is nonsense. You can characterize it, obviously, Dr. Brahman doesn't like China. I understand that. He's entitled to his point of view. But this is an issue China has been trying to develop its area. I do agree that there has to be a regional approach to these types of issues. But you have to understand that each side is trying to do it. Let's say things are reversed. Would India hesitate to say, well, we're not going to develop anything because it might hurt somebody else? No, you've done your fair share.
You're saying that you are aware it will hurt India, and you're going ahead with that. That's what you just said.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying to you is that this is a diplomatic issue that is of utmost consequence. And I really mean that. You can live without many things, but you cannot live without water. So water is essential.
That sounds like a threat. That sounds quite obviously like a threat.
You can say whatever you want, Arnab. I'm just pointing out to you that diplomacy is a really good idea, and you're saying that somehow it's a threat.
I think diplomacy is a very good idea, but I think you will agree with me that transparency is also a very good idea.
Transparency, and come on, transparency. I mean, both sides were building roads and transportation on both sides of the border.Ere they being transparent? No.
See, I say this with absolute. I say this with absolute.
Spread it even more.
I say this with absolute conviction. Einar, I say this with absolute conviction. Nobody wants to go to war. I mean, we are two very large countries, two very large economies.
Diplomacy isn't
I'm just saying that you will also have to reconcile yourself to the fact that Mongolia is friendly to India, Japan, Vietnam, Central Asia, that we have leverage, we are a large country, we are growing faster than you, and therefore it is in it's in your interest as well to be transparent about these things. And I think I must say, Einar, you've been unfair. You've been unfair to Brahma today. He's not a scholar who's caustic to China. He understands China. You've been so unfair to him today.
If you've listened to him, he doesn't understand anything about China. He's simply voicing these kind of old things, saying that the secretive nature of Chinese, this is an old tripe. I mean, this is the kind of nonsense that goes on. This is what creates distrust. Right? The whole point about having dialogue and having diplomacy is to try to establish a sense of trust so that both sides can work for a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Or the best
I think it's very good the matter is out in the public domain, and it's very good. I think there should be a global debate on this. Brahma and Einar, it's an absolute pleasure to have both of you on the debate this evening. Thank you very much for presenting different sides. And on the other side tonight,